Okay, there we go.
Yes, sir. What's going on, Coach? How
Uh-huh.
everything, man?
Everything's good, man. Trying to had to rile my. I got three little ones, man. Had to rile them up, and make sure they don't come through running through here, interrupting the show. But what's going on, man? I appreciate y'all having me on.
Most definitely.
Man, anytime, man. Obviously, man, love your work, everything you'll do for Gainesville, man. Doing a tremendous job out there, man. So, Coach, give us the latest, man. What's going on with this year's team, man? What you think?
Well, first and foremost, man, I'm just a piece of the puzzle. It's a collective. We got a great coaching staff. We obviously got a great head coach. It's kind of put us in a position to to do our own thing. Just make sure we're doing it within the system. As far as this 25 team, man, I'm real excited about these guys. We're 30 deep. When you talk about our senior roster, you know, we just we took those boys down to Atlanta last week, had a good time, had a senior dinner. And these guys have been, they've been together for 4 years, the majority of those guys. So they were upcoming freshmen when we got here, 3.5 years ago. So, it's a tight group, family, like big time brotherhood. So I think this year it's the year that we see it all come full circle, it's something about looking to the guy to your left and your right and knowing y'all played little league ball together. And now here we are, with that last ride. So I think that's a special bond, like I said, the majority of our guys got. And man, I can't wait. It's game week for us, per se. It's our fall jamboree versus McEachern, very talented team. But we're looking forward to the challenge.
Real quick, just about McEachern. When do you guys play them? When's the jamboree?
So we play this Friday, and it's at 7 uh, instead of 7:30. So we'll crank up about 30 minutes earlier and get that thing rolling, man. And it's at City Park, so get there early because it's going to be packed.
I have it. City Park, Gainesville, McEachern. Big scrimmage this weekend. I want to ask you a little bit, Coach Williams, about just maybe taking those lumps, right? Last year, probably not the year, not how you guys wanted to finish, but what do you think guys like the leadership, like Xavier Griffin, maybe just learn from that game against Sequoia and learn from maybe this last year that they can take it to this year, being leaders of this team and trying to, obviously lead this group?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, and, head man talk about all the time, is they got to own it. Like sometimes you just got to own, you got to tell whoop, and that's okay. It's just all about how you respond from it, and I think this is the year of our response. And, those guys have done a really good job of, doing what's necessary to close the gap. We've been so close, in 21-22, we lost to Langston by a touchdown. The year after that, we dropped in the third round to Woodward, and then last year we got bounced by Sequoia. So, we just got to own it, man, and we got to go back to work. And we've done that. We've had a great offseason, probably the best offseason I've seen, since I've been here. And guys just really focusing on those little things. It all comes down to, man, can you block, can you tackle, can you pitch and catch on the perimeter? And so we're excited about these guys and their leadership and what we've done this summer.
100%. And then I know a position that you coach pretty well. I know you play a big part in the offense, but just the playmakers, man. What have you seen from them and their growth so far? I mean, you talk about this one being one of the best off seasons, but how has that group continued to progress? Last year, man, y'all had some dogs. You had Jeremiah Ware, Christopher Taz Smith. Like y'all were loaded. Just this year in comparison, how does that look?
I think we got better, honestly. You take a guy like Philip Williams, who's been in our program for 4 years now. I talk about that circle coming back around. He's been a guy that's developed, that's worked his tail off, and now this is his time. And you'll see my guy make a lot of plays this fall. He's an underdog, he's undersized, but a great route runner, gritty. Gonna catch everything you throw to him. So he will be a big highlight of our offense. And then we got guys like Cameron James, who came in. He's a senior. Colin Porterfield. We got some 28 guys. Colin Luke, Legend Wilmot, that are going to play. Chase Walker came to us. We're really, this is probably the deepest I've ever been in my room. And then, man, we got some 29 cats now. I ain't gonna say no names. I'll let them do the talking. But they'll turn some heads this fall as well. So when I say, we'll have a real rotation and guys getting plenty of reps, especially early on in the season, so we can hit that region ground running. So I'm really excited about my group. Like I said, the deepest I've had, but the biggest thing is the competition every day. Like, it's different when three guys come in, they're starters, or they're seniors. They really don't have anybody breathing down their neck. Well, this year is different at every position. And I think, that's going to take us, collectively to a whole nother level for sure.
True. Now, before we talk about your start quarterback, I want to ask you about the O-line. The guy you put me on game with was Crew Mullador. Obviously committed to Louisville. He's been
Yep.
doing his thing. Very impressive. We know you guys obviously got Tyler. You know what I'm saying? He's been doing his thing. We know you guys got Carter Mathis, who's like about almost 6'8", 6'7", and some change. So talk about the O-line, just that camaraderie and how they're kind of gelling so far.
For sure. Well, first, I'll start off with, our O-line coach is Christian Honeycutt, and what a legend he is, in the state of Georgia. His name holds a lot of weight, and he's old school, man. So our linemen are going to be tough. They're going to come off the ball, and they're big, man. We are huge up front, from Tyler, to Bryson Hurt to Crew. That's 6'3", 6'4", 6'6". You talk about Carter, who's still growing. He's pushing 6'8". And, we got Bryson Sturdivant that played last year that'll be returning. Another guy that emerged this spring and summer is Zion Benjamin, he'll play guard for us. We actually moved Crew over to center. So he's got command of those five guys right there and doing a great job. Obviously committed to Louisville. Excited for him about that. And then, Tyler's a beast, man. But he's still young. He's still developing. He's still growing every day. Bryson Hurt is another one that's super athletic. He can play guard or tackle. So we're excited about those guys up front, man. We just continue to, get in that speed shape of the game, creeping up on, fall camp going into, the season here in a couple of weeks, man. But we're definitely excited about our O-line. I think it'd be one of the best in the state.
I 100% agree with that, brother. I think it can be. My last one before I throw it to Bacon. I got to ask about your quarterback, man. Clemson commit. He's been doing his thing. And I think what I've been impressed with is just his mental aspect of the game, right? Everybody falls in love with his throwing, his mechanics. But when I was talking to him last year, he was like, well, I stay later with Coach Niblett, and we're watching film and correcting things and how I can get better. I think when you can mentally hit that part as a quarterback, the game slows down for me. But you see him every day in practice. Where have you seen in terms of his growth from maybe last year when he really put himself out there to where he is now?
Well, Kareem was with us as a freshman, and you always can tell when a guy has it, and you can't really explain what it is. You just know he's got it, and he was one of those guys, and he's always been one of those guys. He's been a leader, since he was a freshman. He's always tried to do the right things. But yeah, man, intelligent young man, AP student, really good grades. Pop's done a wonderful job with him. He's a yes sir, no sir kid. If we're eating, man, he's gonna be the last one in there. He's gonna make sure all the chairs are pushed up. He's gonna pick up trash. No job is too small for him. And I think that's why he has so much respect early on. We threw him in the fire last year. As a sophomore, he threw for 2,500. A bunch of TDs, and I think it kind of woke everybody up. Like, okay, this is our guy. With 2 years left, and obviously having one year of film, and my man's already committed to Clemson. Super excited. Because it was kind of a shocking moment, when they finally pulled the trigger. Because how Clemson is, they wait. They wait, and when they offer a guy, they really want that guy. I think that held some weight with Kareem, and he really didn't kind of hesitate when it came to committing to those guys. So, and I think he's a perfect fit for that program, and what Coach Sweeney does. But getting a little bit back to him, man, he's that it guy for us. He's got a relationship with guys on both sides of the ball, which every quarterback should do. Kind of the glue of our locker room. And he's a great kid. You don't want these kids to be, too serious, too goofy. You want them to kind of flirt that line when it's time to be professionals. It's time to be a professional, and he knows exactly how to do that. And that's why the guys follow him. And they'll always follow him. Whether if he's here or playing in college or playing at the next level one day. So he's my guy. We got a real relationship, man, real connection with the kid, and talked to his dad a good bit. And we're just excited about his maturity and his growth, and I can't wait to see how he light it up, come August 15th.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, babe.
Absolutely, Coach. Saw the Falcons last week. It's a close proximity to y'all, and I kind of see y'all in the similar light. Great quarterback, great in the trenches. You got Xavier Griffin. You just talked about the O-line. So just how was that, back and forth, the iron and sharpening iron process visually when you watch the team every practice?
It's great. I mean, when you think about the really, really good teams, just say Georgia, the old school Bama, the dynasty when Nick Saban was there, you know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't good on good. It was great on great every day at practice, full speed, accountable, you're my boy in the locker room, but once we get out on the field, like it's business, and that's what we try to create at Gainesville. And Coach Nibbler's done a really good job of making our practices chaotic and loud and extremely hard and fast, So, if practice can be faster than the game, then our guys can, they can do their things on Friday night. And that's what we want. We want them to relax and we want them to have fun and play the game the way it's supposed to be played.
Absolutely. Another name for you, Xavier Ruworth, if I'm saying his name correctly, a running back for y'all, class 27, has blown up a lot this summer. So I'm saying we watch this game and you evaluate him. Just why do you think our success has happened so sudden for him?
Nigel Newkirk.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Nigel Newkirk, yes, sir. Nigel, he came early January, February, and immediately wanted to get on the track. Coach, I want to get my speed down. I ran 11.2 last year. I want to get down to that 10.9. So you talk about a young man that understands how important speed is, at the running back position. And my man he's chiseled up. He's probably 190 right now, and put together, out of a lab. And so with a body like that, it requires a lot of maintenance. So he does a really good job of the herd of mobility and taking care of his core and eating correctly. A true student of the game. And, there's, he's a gap runner. He's a zone runner. There's not really any type of scheme that, he can't do. He's got really good ball skills out of the backfield, so we'll use him a lot of different ways. And again, man, he's a sophomore about to be a junior. So he's got 2 years in that same class as with Kareem. And we're excited, for him. You can't really put a name on it. Some people like to say scat back or thunder and lightning or whatever, but he can do it all. He can run in and outside the tackles. Like I said, he can line up and empty. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. So the future is really bright for this young man. And he works extremely hard in the weight room. He develops that speed and that twitch the way it's supposed to be developed. And, he's going to put the state on notice, and I got to mention, the one behind him and PJ Lewis. He's a 2028 running back. And he's going to be really good. He's going to split time, with Nigel. Cause man, these days you want to play 15 games. You better have a couple running backs.
Right.
You better have a couple running backs, knock on wood. God forbid any of these guys get hurt, but and we got some other young ones we're trying to develop and get ready to play. But Nigel and PJ will be our guys, heading into this 25 season.
For sure. Coach Deon Williams, a man that holds many titles, specifically one right now, recruiting coordinator. You know what I mean? I know there's a lot of parents, players that's beating down your door to try to align with the red elephant system. You know what I'm saying? You just talked about a bunch of guys being chiseled. How do you get people just buy in? Because it's a rigorous system. There's no cakewalk to come to Gainesville, produce, stay locked in. So just how is that process of, getting people to buy into y'all system?
I think it's the system itself that we have in place. And it's a system that Coach Nibbler brought, combined with, the resources that Gainesville has, for us. Our superintendent, Dr. Williams, and our athletic director, Adam Lindsay, our principal, Roberto Rivera. They're all in alignment. They're all in alignment. And when you're in alignment from top to bottom, from your superintendent to your principal to your AD to your head coach, like that's a real system. That's a system that can't be broken. So I think that's what the parents see. I think that's what the kids see, because kids want structure. They really do. Really, really good players want to be coached really, really hard. And I'm tired of hearing about, the day and age of, man, these kids these days are soft, or, they couldn't do what we did. Well, that's why we're here. That's why we're coaches. We're put in this position to adapt to whatever type of kid, whatever generation, that we have, and kids are different, and we were different, but there's no right or wrong answer to why we did what we did and what they do. It is what it is. And, I think that's why, we have a really, really good coaching staff to be able to handle a bunch of different personalities. We got 2 Bama commits on defense. That's not as easy as it sounds looking from the outside in. But getting to our defense, man, we probably have the best box, in the state. But just because we got 2 Bama commits and a Duke commit in the middle with Aiden Kane, and, Caden Fasong will probably be your next big commitment coming from our defensive side. We still got to show up and play every Friday night, regardless of what we look like on paper. And I think in the past, that's kind of gotten us a little bit, Yeah, we're supposed to go beat this team because of, who we got, this guy, but games played between those white lines, and none of the stars matter. None of the accolades matter. What you did in middle school don't matter. Who you're committed to don't matter. You got to go play ball on Friday night. And that's the best thing I love about being in the state of Georgia. Like, you got to come with it every Friday night, no matter who you're playing. So.
Absolutely. Any given Friday. But last couple of questions I'll throw back to Naj. We know about Gainesville's front seven. We know how dominant it can be. But the question mark has been the secondary coach. So how can you reassure us at this moment right here?
Man, look, I got complete faith in my guys. Coach Mike Malone, who played at Gainesville, is our safeties coach. Coach Satterwhite, who played at Marshall, who was a great player, in college. He's our corners coach. Coach Casey Smith, that's our DC. And again, last year it's a little different. When you can't put a ton of pressure on the quarterback, then the secondary looks suspect. But it plays hand in hand. You get a rush on the quarterback, secondary gonna look pretty good. You know what I'm saying? If we back there covering those guys for 6 seconds, then the box gonna look pretty good. So it goes hand in hand. Regardless if the finger's being pointed at the secondary or the D line, those guys own it. And that's what we've done this offseason. We've owned it. Elijah Watson is a senior corner who's gonna have a huge year. He'll play college ball somewhere. We got Roger Holder, who's a senior, who's been here for 4 years. Zach Ingram, who's a 2027 lone corner, athletic, runs track, 200, 400-meter runner. Damari Bailey is another young, athletic, kind of can do it all, can play nickel, can play safety, can play corner, also one of the best 400-meter runners in this state. So I think we're going to put some pieces together and put our guys in a position where they can be successful. And we got some new guys in, and, they got something to go prove, and those guys' name will remain until they do so, but I'm excited about our secondary. I see them every day. We go against them every day. They make us better every day. And I got my money on the Red Elephants, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Last question I throw back to Naj. Just, Coach, we know what you're doing right now here on the high school level, but I know you're taking 1 week at a time to prepare for this season, but I got to ask you about just the grand scheme. What's the broader picture for Coach Williams moving forward, I guess, after high school, or however you want to answer the question?
He's coached college too.
Oh, there it is.
So I was one of those guys back in the day. I spent 9 years in college coaching. I had the privilege to coach guys like Seth Roberts, who played in the league for 7 years. Malcolm Butler, who, played for the New England Patriots, had the Super Bowl 6. I had, Tyreek Hill, who's one of the best dynamic players that's ever played the game. So I've been fortunate, man, to be around a lot of really good players when I was in college and high school. But to say the end game for me, man, I've always wanted to flirt with the NFL to see what that vibe was like, and I the college coaches that come by here, I pick their brains and I ask them, hey man, like, what's your end game? Are you good with just being a position coach? Do you want to be a coordinator? And it's crazy to see the amount of guys that don't want to do certain things. They're good with what they do. They are who they are. Like, I'm not a coordinator, I'm a position coach, or I am a coordinator, I'm not a head coach, So I do want to be a head coach one day. That's definitely in the plans. It's all in God's timing. I've had some opportunities prior, and I know the way I work, I'll continue to get opportunities. But again, it's all God's timing, man. And the time when my little girl's growing up, and I still want to be able to be daddy, and come home at a decent hour and do the things, I want to do with them. Because, ain't nobody gonna raise your kids but your own, or but yourself, excuse me. And but yeah, the NFL, definitely a head coach. But I definitely want to flirt with the NFL one day, man, see what that vibe talking about, So
Absolutely.
There
Appreciate
you
that,
have
Coach.
it. Yes, sir. So, Coach, we gotta come over and let you go because, like I said, I'm not gonna keep you past 30 minutes, man. So we
it's
about to
all
hit the
good.
30 minutes. So
It's
I
all
want to
good.
ask. You talked about owning it for this team, right? In
Mm-hmm.
Gainesville. What's the key to success, though? You believe it is, and I know it's one game at a time. I know it's the 1-0, but for you guys to achieve what you guys really want to achieve, and we know what that is, Coach. How does the Gainesville Red Elephants, this iteration of the team, how do they do that?
It might sound cliche, um, but we got to play Gainesville football. You know, um, we got to block. We got to get off blocks. We got to tackle. We got to break tackles. We got to pitch and catch. We can't turn the ball over. We got to create turnovers. It's really simple. When you think about what we have to do to win, we have the pieces. We got 7 home games this year. But just because it's set up for us to be successful, don't mean it's going to be that way. Like, we got to go take it every game, and we got to play every game like it's a championship. We can't play down to the level of our opponent, or, we're playing somebody like y'all know who. We can't get too high. We got to stay right there and just play our brand of ball, which is fast, physical, and a disciplined football team. Um, so there is no secret. The work's been put in. The schemes have been put in. Our players are going to be ready. They're going to be prepared. We just got to go show it. We just got to go show it.
True. Obviously, we talked about any given Friday earlier, but so to ask you guys do a really good non-region schedule. A lot of people don't talk about that with y'all, but y'all play the Carrolltons, right? Y'all play obviously the home series with Moody, which is a really
Mm-hmm.
good team in Alabama. Made the state championship last year, right?
Yep.
You guys play a really tough non-region game. How do you feel like that's prepared y'all too for when you go in the region? You play in Milton, you play in the Laniers, you play in the Roswells in order to kind of dominate.
Yep, absolutely. And just understanding that Gainesville, we're going to get everybody's best shot. We got a target on our back, but we embrace that. We got a saying called choose hard, and everything that comes along with that. But yeah, man, the non-region schedule, we open up, obviously we play McEachern this Friday in the Jamboree. We open up with Marietta. They got a new head man over there and got everybody excited about it. They were really talented last year when we went over there and played them. Week 2 is Moody out of Alabama. We spent the night over there, and that was a really good experience for our kids. Just staying overnight. We drove up on an early Thursday, kind of hung out, spent the night. Woke up and played. That was just a really good experience for the kids. How many guys can say they go overnight out of state, stay on the road, stay in a hotel with your boys, and then wake up and play ball. So we try to give those guys those type of shared experiences. And then I think we have Westlake game 3, and then Carrollton's coming to the crib game 4. So we'll be at home, the first 4 games of the season. Where opposed to last year, we were on the road for 4 games, which was very difficult.
Yes.
You talk about 15, 16, 17-year-olds, going on the road, to a different spot every week, trying to play a brand of football. But playing at home don't make it easy. Don't make it okay. We still got to go take what's ours, and we got to defend home field. And it's always good playing at City Park, man. There's no place like it.
And then speaking of last 2, before we let you go, just obviously, like you said, you got to go take it, you got to go win. But how good does it feel like seeing the administration, seeing the community, like I said, y'all have rebuilt, that stadium, right? You guys got obviously suites now. It's like a real before it was good, obviously. City Park is City Park, but
Mm-hmm.
it's different now. How good does that feel to be home, knowing you got the community support, they didn't invest in you guys, and now you guys got a real authentic experience, unlike any other really in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, it's surreal, man. Like even, the student activity center that, we're in all day. Like it's, the whole second floor is football. We got a team room with 150 something seats. Like we got a locker room, we got a players lounge, like, but we kind of went back this year. Coach talked about, when we got here, we didn't have all that. We had to walk in the building with hard hats on. We were changing out of trailers. People didn't see that behind the scenes stuff, and honestly, like it made that 22 team tougher, because we had to live off the land a little bit, and we got to get back to that. You can't, you sit in leather seats, you get a little comfortable, you kind of slouch down a little bit, like, so we got to kind of get it. We got to get it back out the mud this year. We got to go take it back. But as far as City Park, man, it's a whole vibe. And y'all have seen it, man, just looking up, at the high rise and the sky boxes, with the red seats, man, it's unbelievable. It looks like a college. And our band is great. It's loud. It's down in the valley, so it's always cool. It's shaded with the trees. Like it's a real Friday night environment, and I encourage anybody, come watch a Gainesville football game on a Friday night, and you will be amazed. You will be amazed because the environment is electric. It really is. And, we feed off that. We feed off the crowd. We feed off the cheerleaders, the band. We got people on the opposite hill, doing whatever, turn. But yeah, man, it's a whole vibe, and I can't wait. I mean, I cannot wait, for August 15th to get here for game one.
And then last question, we'll let you go, Coach. We just want to hear, just obviously talk about picking the brain of other, obviously coaches, assistants, position coaches, defensive coordinators. Is there anybody you like to watch, maybe famous coach at the next level, at the NFL level, just to see how they approach the game, how they approach their players, to kind of add to your coaching acumen?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of mentors growing up, man. Obviously being from Tuscaloosa, born on Alabama's campus, like Nick Saban kind of resurrected that whole community, of Tuscaloosa. So I always love, the discipline, attention to details that he always spoke about. I went to that camp every year. I had my older sister went there, so I would always sneak over and go watch practice when I was young. So, I watch, man, I watch a little everybody, I watch guys that are bad, and just, try to take little nuggets from here, because we're all coaching the same game, but I think everybody can learn something from anybody, regardless of, if they're an NFL guy or a Division II coach. Like ball is ball at the end of the day. And, real coaches can coach any type of player, not just the 5 stars, but, the little Johnnies and, everybody in between. If you are a true developer of young men, then those are the guys I want to hear, because anybody can, throw 5 stars out there and, go win some ball games, but who can impact their lives, who can set those guys up for success after football, because this day and age, man, football ain't promised. It's lesser than it's ever been. So, and we talk to our guys about, what's next for you, even though it might not be football. Like, what's next for you? Whether if it's the Army, if it's the Navy, it's a trade. So it's not just football that I'm doing as far as being the recruiting coordinator. It's what's next, and trying to put these guys in a position to, have a career, and not just a job to where they're going to work for 6 months and then, hop to somewhere else. But just trying to set them up for success, man, because one day they're going to have a family they got to take care of. They're going to have kids that's looking up to them. Somebody go get, the man got to go make that money. So it's a challenge, but I love it. Love being around the guys every day. Love being around our staff every day. We went on a staff retreat in Alabama, and went to a ranch and just kind of hung out, rode some horses. And it was just, it was just cool to kick back, put ball to a side for a minute and just talk, man. Just, just kick it, before the grind starts. Because you're looking at about 19 straight weeks all the way to that state championship game. And that's what we're trying to do.
100%. Well said, Coach. We let you go. Anybody want to shout out, man? Anybody want to pub? The kids, the wife, fam, before we let you go.
Always the kids, man. I got three. I got a 4-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 2-month-old. So your boy not getting much sleep around here, but it is what it is. It's all good. The wife do a good job. Also, obviously I got to shout out Gainesville, shout out all the Gainesville boys. I see them guys in the morning. Shout out Coach Niblett, for being the leader that he is of this program. And, everybody affiliated with the Gainesville community, man, the whole Red Kingdom community. And I appreciate y'all, man. It ain't easy doing what y'all do, from a day-to-day basis. Y'all constantly, on somebody, trying to text this guy, call this guy, get to school, you know what I'm saying? Put guys in a position to add value to themselves, man. And look, hey, salute to y'all boys for what y'all do for sure.
No, 100%, man. Much love to you, Coach, man. Appreciate you taking some time, man, and good luck this season.
Always, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Love, Coach. All right, man. There he goes, man. Deon Williams for coming on the pod, man. Shout out to Gainesville staff and the community, man. I always enjoy going out there, man. Really great staff and, like I said, community, man. And like I said, man, Coach Williams, man, me and him have always been a lot like this. And, he's somebody I could talk to for advice, somebody I talk to just for, different little things, man. And appreciate him, man, just being real, coming on the show. Could have said no. I know you're a busy man, family man, as we can see bacon. But I appreciate the little 30 minutes you gave us. Yeah, man, got a lot going on. But I just got to show you the love, man, just being able to come on.
Absolutely, man. First time, well, not my first time seeing Coach Williams, but like having a conversation with him like that, you can feel the energy through the screen as you can with probably most Gainesville coaches. We gave a lot of insight to the DB room. You know what I'm saying? I got track stars, I got long DBs, so that's something for the analysts or fans or opposing teams that's watching this. You know what I'm saying? You got to do your homework, which I'm sure opposing teams have already done, but you gave a lot of insight for sure.
And I'll say too, man, like y'all can learn a lot from Coach Williams, man. Like how he goes about his business, how intricate he is to the details. All that is why Gainesville is where Gainesville is. And he ain't just, getting guys. Like he's developing these guys, right? A lot of people didn't know about their receiving core last year, right? But he's getting these guys and he's developing them. Like he said, the Johnnies, right? He's not doing like when the last time you heard Gainesville have a 4-star or 5-star receiver?
Facts.
So he's doing more with less. That just attests to and talks about, what he's doing in terms of development, man. So a lot of people could take some notes from his chapter, his book, and, just being able to apply that, man. And I think everybody in the high school realms should have a recruiting coordinator, man. It's just a fact. It makes your team better. It makes a difference, man, because then your head coach ain't got to worry about it. He can worry about the kids on the field, man, and coaching them up. And your recruiting coordinator can handle the rest of the stuff, getting the kids out there, exposure. I mean, every time you look around, I mean, we going to go ahead and pub it for y'all real quick, man. I mean, like I said, this is how you run an account. So they have a separate account for their football team, right? And then they have a Gainesville recruiting, a channel as well. So, I mean, this is how you get your school out there, right? And then it shows how many players they got to the NFL, the Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC, Pac-12, whatever it may be. And they're always highlighting their kids, man. And that's what you need, right? 30 different backgrounds, one common goal, right? They always getting the kids out there. Look, man, they even went to Fogo de Chao. Like, how many people do you say taking kids to Fogo de Chao? You know how expensive Fogo de Chao is, man. That's what I'm saying, though. That's the difference, and this is why Gainesville is the program that they are, man. And like I said, always exposing their guys. Anybody, look, Austin Butler talked about, obviously, Xavier Griffin, they go, they retweet, obviously. Any of the kids get offers, they go in and they're retweeting it, right? Their star quarterback commits, same thing, man. So this is how you run an account for your kids, man, and you get them out there. Well done. And obviously, I know Coach Williams, he runs this channel. So I just want to show those out there. If you ever, have a question or you don't know how to do something, like just follow the Gainesville account. Again, I'm not trying to have them take what Gainesville is doing, but that is a great example of how to get your program and your kids out there. Because that's what it's about, man. It's about exposure. And that's what we try to do too. We try to expose the kids. I mean, I've been high on Kareem for the longest. Like, I even said it, went out on a limb. People called me crazy. But when I was on the platform, I know you remember Bacon.
Yeah.
I said he is the next star in our sport. And it's just crazy to me. It's surreal that now that's what he is. He's known everywhere now. And that's what you need for programs. You need people to kind of be your ambassador, you know what I'm saying, to a degree, and get you out there, man. So they do a great job. And like I said, I always like their program, man. They do media right, and they do people right.
Nah, facts. Nah, I just had a post on this community team. I always go into the morning practices during spring, 6 a.m., even catching some evening practices. He was high on Kareem early. You know what I'm saying? I remember it. I was probably sitting at this very spot when he said it. But now, from whenever we took the tour that's been documented or undocumented now, so you got to see just how everything works. You know what I'm saying? I think Gainesville's top 5 easily in terms of just well-ran programs, efficient. It's going to get you exposure, not just on the football field, but to experiences in life. You know, everybody didn't get to eat at Fuego to Shop 5-star, you know what I'm saying? Fine dining restaurant that you get served up. But, yeah. And then Coach Williams, you know what I mean? Coach Tyreek Hill, coach on the college football level, DB Butler from the Patriots. So we just have that. And then Coach Honeycutt, you know, there's so many different football minds of knowledge that you just get to tap into as a young man, as a kid that's just coming on, trying to play the game he's been loving since he was in diapers. So it's top level program for sure.